Well, today's main topic is going to be elemental creation and the difference between sex magic, forcing your consciousness onto other beings, such as elementals, sexual alchemy, versus orgasmic creation. And today we're going to talk about the big secret that people are willing to kill for. So, back in step one, we talk about the massive difference between the finite light electrostatic light cells and the infinite light 3-circle geometry light cells. And today we're going to talk about the transduction sequence from light to matter material. Then I mentioned the middle domains and your Umshadi Sidatem. How can you generate sparks that have a higher capacity to actually bring information from your original DNA template? And then we talked about the spark points in your genital area and the spinal breathing that circulates those sparks all throughout all your energy centers, all throughout your 15-dimensional anatomy, which we went into in step 2. How does your anatomy actually look like? What does that mean that you have 15 dimensions? Then we went into elements and elementals. The 5 main elemental kingdoms are then creating the 144 original chemical elements. I'm studying chemistry. That's going to be my next big animal to tackle, because it's beautiful and fascinating, and it's not as difficult as it seems. It's math, but it's once you understand your anatomy from a chemical perspective, a chemical point of view, you quite literally realize that you make this, you generate this, every bit of it. And we talked about the energetic debris in your biofield. My favorite example of the glitter bubble cloud that was created out of nothing. And then every time you suck yourself back into nothingness, then parts of you still stay outside in your biofield, just littering you up. I did mention the difference between empathy and compassion, because we went into a respectful relationship with the hurt part of yourself or parts of yourself. I'm wondering whether you ever revisited that part of yourself, because that's a baseline of a respectful relationship that you check on yourself, that how are you doing? How have you been since I last saw you? And I did give you the first trip to the Adashi temples. So now that you have the map there, the energetic frequency map, you can go back and visit however you want to and how many times you want to. You can learn there, study there, you can heal at the Adashi temples. Those are ascension temples. And in step 3, we talked about the names of your 15-dimensional gelesic layers. And if you do tone those names, you are literally talking to different parts of your anatomy. You can program different things into different layers of your reality. You can work with them on an emotional level as well, because they correspond to different emotional realities of your full self. Then we went into internal creation versus external substances. We started talking about self-worth. How can you generate literally higher quality substance, which affects your consciousness? Once you are not made of junk food, then you don't feel like junk. It has a ripple effect. It has a feedback on your own psyche, on your own reality, that am I made of trash or am I quality, high quality material? We went into food, we went into plant-based food. I went completely plant-based, and I'm changing, I'm quite literally changing. Then we went into self-talk, how cruel self-talk is programming you to have cravings, and you are producing needy chemicals. Once you get used to an always hungry, always scarce mindset, then you just keep recreating the same consciousness, and you keep craving more and more and more. Not just food, sex as well, anything. Then in step 4, we went into addiction. Substance abuse, idolizing substance abuse through storytelling and the artificial creation itself, that you feel like you need an outer consciousness, an outer boost, outside energy to feed you in any way, not just physically, emotionally as well. You feel lonely, you touch a substance, and it very gradually erodes your consciousness, your ability to even believe that you are in control. Brought up the wonderful example of the cosmic supermarket. Those are totally, completely improvised. just sit down and keep talking. And your secret, our own secret mission, all of us' secret mission, to be from within instead of create yourself from outside, attaching yourself to an outside idea, mimic somebody else's behavior, generate yourself from within, write your own scripts, remind yourself what it might feel to love, to be loved, remind everything else, remind the elementals, earth, water, fire, all of that. Remind anybody and everybody who comes in contact with you what it might feel like to be loved fully, completely. Then I did talk about empathy and compassion again, because it's important. That's how you heal yourself. That's how you take your own power back, not to rely on somebody else's kindness, not to rely on someone else's help. We can generate something very different when two beings come together. We can merge realities in a way that creates something never before seen. But you yourself, you don't need anybody else or anything else to generate a version of yourself that does not feel broken. So choose wisely, because you are producing yourself again and again and again and again. Step 5, we went into attraction. And the difference between the elemental consumption and the innocent desire to be at one and be more whole and complete. Your keys, your harmonic keys, they are in female bodies and in male bodies, embody quite a separate form of consciousness, of a being that, when it's put together, is by nature more whole and complete. We're not androgynous. We are carrying either more female, feminine, or either more masculine components. And it exists on an elemental level as well. It exists in your chemicals, your biochemicals as well, that they are longing to be something more than just what they were designed within this one body. And that causes attraction, not just physical attraction. It also causes all sorts of emotional attraction, music, food, some piece of art, a project, a business. When you just get that urge that, oh, I want to be with you. I want to have what you have. That's coming from your elementals. Because the orgasmic experience is a DNA braiding experience. And then in step 5, we talked about porn. I still haven't freaked you out enough about porn, because I don't, I've built it up quite solidly, hopefully by now, that I don't just recite the woo-woo. But I think today I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper, that you do genuinely generate beings, forms of consciousness. You can call them stories, you can call them entities, you can call them images. Every time you engage in the moment of creation. And sex right now, the sexual energy, I have to stop using the word sex, orgasmic energy is on this planet, is the most uninhibited form of creation. We can create in completely non-orgasmic, non-sexual, see, you still have to use the word sex. Because sex literally is coming from the word separation. And it programs your mind each and every time to link a word, a consciousness, consciousness family with the act of sex, with the family of sexuality. You're combining the act of merger, DNA blending, opening up with the word for separation. Fucking Latin. So there are non-sexual ways of creation as well. And well, the porn episode wasn't the episode to talk about that, but I did speak about a little bit about the pyramidal structure, that there's one person at the top and a bunch of people's energy are focused on that one person. And then that one person can be used for whatever they are used for. But all of the people, all throughout time space, who have ever put some thought, put some emotions, put some energy, put some sexual energy towards that one person. Same with the celebrity culture, same with any kind of fame culture. It can be your favorite architect or your favorite scientist. As long as we have influencers, as long as we have a pyramidal system of one person with a bunch of followers, all of those followers are generating the same image. They are feeding the same consciousness collective. And if we're not conscious of it, then we are quite literally communicating with an entity, with a being that was created with the purpose for never reminding you of your own power, never teaching you how to be more of yourself, never showing you examples of this is how you generate frequency. This is how you create your own body. You see quite the opposite examples of you are reliant, you are dependent, you're just watching superheroes who are completely unnatural, and there are a bunch of people around them who just disposables and they die left and right. Not necessarily in porn, but I'm sure that there is porn like that out there. There's everything out there. Because that image that draws attention, and attention is quite literally creating, manifesting, materializing out of Tiwa fields, out of the morphogenetic substance, it crystallizes entities, beings. So be mindful with who you are exchanging your codes with. Today we're going to talk about supernormal stimuli a little bit and the path of least resistance. Then in 6, we talked about particle fission and fusion. I had a little bit of rant about that. Then we just went into sweet and nice and calm breath work. We resensitized the body a little bit. We had a bit of a practice of how subtle sensations can change states of consciousness. When you feel your body again, then instead of a quite abusive or neglective relationship, when you're like, yeah, well, I'm just tired, who cares, let's just override it. Or the same way as the relationship that you have with your body that reflects the relationships that you have with other people, then that when your partner cries for the millionth time, then you just go, well, yeah, that's normal. I'm completely desensitized to that. I don't give a shit that she's in pain. It's just, that's who she is. That's just how my body is. It's just tired each and every day. Who gives a fuck? My child is just crying for the sake of it because she just wants attention, whatever. I don't care. That relationship, that carelessness, that completely desensitized, detached numbness that starts between your body and your mind and your spirit. Then we talked about your eye valeria, your 6th eye structure in your pineal gland, and how I didn't mention then how it relates to fetal integration, but then we went into that in the spirit body section, that all those complexes, your coccyx, your pineal gland, your acerae, and your spleen, we haven't talked much about the spleen, they're all connected to manifestation, materialization, because that's how the fetal body integrates the spirit body. Then we had a little Antakarana Kundalini awakening, which opened up, that was the first step to open up the coccyx, your acoustic records, because this side is the acoustic records, your spirit side is the Akashic records. So when people say that they are visiting the Akashic records, it's not a library. Step 7. Oh, we talked about king, fetish, taboo, consent. I mean, it's an endless topic. And I did mention my very personal views on it. And I would just only mention it from the pressure side, that if you do feel pressure, if you do just want to be adventurous for the sake of it, and if you don't have trust and respect between partners, if you just switch partners and you just want to try something new because it doesn't, it's carefree and it's risk-free, I would highly advise against that. And we did talk about the hedonic twins. We're going to talk about that a lot more today. And your original 12 senses, because when you get to that level, when you get to that twin level, when you get to that twin consciousness that you literally can sense another being, I believe, that's just my personal view, you can quote me on that or not, but that's just my 2 cents, that the twin consciousness, the partner consciousness, is our easiest, quickest, most painless way to remind ourselves of our original senses, of our original capabilities, because you do meet a person that you don't have earthly history with. You usually meet that partner at a stage of your life when you are mature enough, sensitive enough, conscious enough, aware enough that all the shit that has happened to you up to that point, you're not bringing it into the relationship, blaming that other person. While we might consciously understand that our parents are inheriting their own problems from their own parents, it is quite rare to have an unadulterated relationship with parents. On some level, there is usually between us, usually within this family that we belong to, there is such deep emotional discrepancy between kids and parents that we do blame the parents for something. We do harbor some kind of resistance. And with a partner, they enter your life through love at a state where you do have the conscious understanding that even if they do hurt you in some way, you know how to maneuver around it, you know how to solve conflicts. So I believe that that kind of relationship has the most potential to start awakening senses within you, because the key to awaken any of those senses is pure love, pure joy, pure passion, nothing adulterated with fear, sadness, anger, craving, anything. Then in 8, we went into dating. I mentioned, it's not in the public ones, but I did mention a physical breakdown as well, that you can get yourself to the state where you are so much detaching from your emotional body that you feel like you're literally living a double life, that there is a gaping wound between your emotional reality and the facade that you're showing. And at some point, your body will kick a fuss. If you keep that state up, your body will shut down. So all about the mind-body-spirit relationship, and how if you keep recreating the same chemicals, you will keep re-experiencing, re-traumatizing states of mind, states of consciousness that are not present right now, right here. They are not alive. You keep them alive by giving them more attention, giving them more energy. So that was the start of a whole and complete partnership. Then in 9, we went into the emotional memories of your DNA imprints, how parallel lives, parental or just your own karmic miasmic imprint, and any birth trauma or any prenatal trauma can affect you, circumcision. And we were only touching on the emotional elements of it. I didn't expand on it because that was about energetic orgasms versus orgasms. We did go into the or. 12 ors are one They are just different light quotient. They are different light measures. And what we're doing right now with orgasms is quite frequently stress release. And it doesn't get any better than that. Maybe immediately, maybe 10 minutes later, maybe 2 days later, you crave the next high and the next high and the next high. And we never get to the state of fulfillment. We never get to experience at one with creation itself, which is the original version of an orgasm. Then today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the left-hand path around sex magic, how the limiting feeling state of agitation and torture is hiding underneath messages of liberation and individuality and going against the grain and using nature and elemental forces in a very abusive way when you idolize the individual will so much that you impose your will, you impose your consciousness on other beings. And the orgasmic experience compared to that, compared to individuality, separation, the very word sex. Instead of that, the original Kama Sutra, not the Kama Sutra, but the Kama Sutra teachings, they were literally teaching you how to open up different layers of your 15-dimensional anatomy and different matter densities, different forms of substances, different crystalline forms are created at different layers of your 15 dimensions. So your blood crystals, your fluids, your bone crystals, your bone and muscle tissue, and your skin crystals, the outer layer of not just your physical skin, but the outer layer of organs, any kind of separating layer, those are skin crystals. Those crystals could co-resonate and hit such a frequency that the only difference between one state of matter and the other state of matter is their spin rate, their frequency, their angle. When you start co-merging and co-resonating, you can literally turn into one spherical being. That's what the Kama Sutra teachings were about, that you can use certain techniques, you can breathe in certain ways, you can generate frequencies in your body that are these blending frequencies that enable you to resonate with such harmony that it's like you forget who you are. You lose your identity. You lose a separation consciousness, and you can physically become one. We'll get to that. In step 10, we went into the relationship roles and the attachment styles, and we went through the entire artificial hierarchy script structure. It used to be called in Untitled Science the victim-victimizer game. I don't like the term victim-victimizer because they are both just getting hurt and hurting each other and hurting themselves. Everybody, nobody wins in that game. Everybody is suffering. Everybody is the victim. And I'm calling them superior and inferior because there is a hierarchy between those states of consciousness, between those roles that we play in relationships. And the first thing that comes up in intimate setting, when you are physically close to somebody, when you physically feel someone's presence, the very first layer that comes up is how you relate. That relationship is, if you're running a script, if you're imprinted with how I should be, even if you want to be intimate with someone, you can freak the fuck out when someone is this close to you, wanting to relate to you. And that fear immediately brings up your automatic script. If it's imprinted in you, if you are subscribing to that script, if you are housing that energy, if you're entertaining that form of consciousness, then that's the first thing that's going to come up. Because we are very much conditioned against intimacy. I cannot even talk to you properly looking into your eyes for more than a fucking year now. Ridiculous. So, step 11, spirit body, the Iridanos body, and how to set your pineal gland free. So the two journeys that I posted were the raising of the Iridanos technologies and the clearing your pineal gland. So the C60 buckyball structure that is also around the planet. That's why it manifested in your body, but it manifests around your pineal gland. So your pineal gland literally cannot breathe. It cannot feed itself. It cannot generate currents. Any current that would come out of it gets stuck within an etheric structure. So there's a journey posted for removing all those bullshit. And that opens up, once your pineal gland opens up, that opens up your Allurian chambers, your Allurian flows. The Allurian flows are spirit body currents. They, spirit food should be your original food so that you don't need to consume other beings' templates. You don't need to shatter anybody else's consciousness to get their life force energy. You can generate everything that you need through your Allurian lines, through, I haven't taught you hydrolase conversion, but that's the beginning of hydrolase conversion, to open up your lava flows, your lava currents, your Karyasatahala flows, and remind yourself of your original design. Then we went deeper into the prenatal and birth trauma. I just roughly, briefly reminded you of what could be or what should be the cause of feeling alien in your body, feeling unsafe in reality in itself. And then we painted an ideal rebirth scenario, because once you accrete enough frequency through a compassionate cushion, then you can shift timelines. You have enough frequency, you have enough energy, you have enough charge to go, I am not this person anymore. I'm that, or that, or that. And that's something that we're going to build on today. I'm so excited about it. I don't even know how to start.